this week's Talking Codswallop. I am Gemma. This week, I have got a special guest with me. He is a podcaster. He is a stand-up comedian. He is a father, a husband. He is one of the creators of the Unfiltered Studio Network. And I guarantee that he is going to be speaking for much longer than a minute, like he does on his normal podcast, which is called the Stupid History Minute. So please welcome to the show, Keb Pound.
Oh, wow. Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. Yeah, we have been talking for about 5 minutes, and then I said, we're going to have to stop because I need to record.
Right. Yeah. We could go on and on and on. It's
Yeah,
it's fun, but
absolutely.
no, thank you very much for having me. This is different because this is international.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told the soon to be world famous wife, I said, look, man, the Keb is international now.
Yeah, exactly. You certainly are. And I made Unfiltered Studio Network, sorry, Network International as well by joining as well, didn't I? So, woohoo!
Yeah, I think also you're the only international member, right?
Yeah, at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a Canadian one a while ago, but they didn't do much, so we parted ways.
Nah, fair enough.
Yeah,
That's fair enough.
But I mean, I don't really count Canada as international, but I guess it is because they're on the other side of the imaginary line.
Yeah, I suppose in a way. But I also think of them as kind of not international in the sense that because they're on thereabouts on your time zone, aren't they?
Yeah, kind of. Depending on where you're at, And what's funny is I've lived in the United States my entire life, and we studied Canada, and I still couldn't tell you where British Columbia is. I really couldn't. But then again, I have trouble telling you where Wyoming is.
Yeah, and well, to be honest, if you were to, I mean, I know you're in Florida, so obviously I know thereabouts where that is. But if you were to ask me, like, I don't know, where Kentucky was, I'd be like, I genuinely have no idea. I picked the first thing that I could think of because I was dreaming of KFC.
If you start in Florida, and you drive like northwest, and when you start hearing banjos really loud, that's when you get to Kentucky.
Okay, all right, brilliant.
Yeah,
so the deep
or
south.
You start smelling moonshine. That's when you get to Kentucky. I've told this joke. Many people who are going to listen to this will be like, "Don't tell your Kentucky joke." I'm gonna absolutely tell my Kentucky joke.
Go for it.
So in Kentucky, they really hate it when you call their capital Louisville. You want to know why?
No, I don't know why.
Because it's Frankfurt. It's just a dumb, Anyhow, if you go to Louisville, Kentucky, and you start calling their town Louisville and not Louisville, they will correct you.
Yeah.
And then if you do it more than once, they will correct you. Hey, it's Louisville. With a not nice word after that.
Yeah.
And they'll correct you, but everybody thinks their capital is Louisville. And it's not. It's Frankfort, Kentucky. And the only reason I know that is because in the 5th grade, I did a report on Kentucky, and anyhow, everybody's just like, that's a horrible joke. And I was like, well, I'm going to continue to tell it because I think it's funny.
I laughed. So, and I didn't know which one was the capital. So, I think that's actually really funny. So, you go for it.
Yeah. One of the things in elementary school, which I believe you guys call primary school, correct?
Yeah, depending on what the age group is. Primary school is usually from 4 to 7, I think it is.
Oh, okay. We have elementary school, like we have grades here.
Okay, yeah.
And like kindergarten through like 5th grade goes to elementary school, 6th, 7th, and 8th are middle school, and then 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th are high school.
Yeah. So we've got very similar. So it's very similar, but slightly different. Go figure that one out.
Here in elementary school in the 5th grade, you have to learn all of the state capitals.
Okay.
here in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So, and schools are regulated in the United States state by state, and then you have county districts, and all this, and it's all the government, and but yeah, you have to learn all the state capitals. So, um, here a good trivia would be naming obscure state capitals, like if you know them or not,
Mm-hmm.
especially being out of school, since I was in fifth grade in like 1985, maybe
Mm.
86, so I think 85.
I won't tell you that I was 2 then.
Right.
Oh, what a
Yeah.
baby.
It
No,
doesn't
not
make
at
me
all.
feel old or anything, Yeah. Hey, man, I just turned 50, which means I have a new relationship with sneezing.
Oh, really?
I mean, yeah, you sneeze now and like your sides hurt.
Yeah.
You got to go to the emergency room.
Yeah.
And
Shit
they're like,
yourself.
dude, what happened to you? Did you have a heart attack? No, I sneezed. You know, uh, well, don't do that. Well, I can't really help it.
No.
And I went to the podiatrist, and he's like, your feet hurt, and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, what happens? Like, I cough too loud or too hard.
Oh,
you
no.
know and he's like, don't do that. You get older, you worry about things that you never worried before, like I was looking at my best friend, and we are having a beer the other day, and I was like, I wonder which one of us is going to die first.
What was his response?
Yeah, he's like, let's not talk about this. And I'm like, nah, how do you think you're going to die? Car wreck? You think you're going to piss me off and I kill you? I mean, how do you think that's going to die? And I had surgery in October of last year, and they make you fill out this thing, and it's like a living will of like, if you die in surgery, like who gets your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I put in there, I said, I want my estate to go to my wife unless she's the reason for my death. And then I want it to go to my kids unless they're the reason for my death. And she's like, I'm not using this thing. I said, you have to, it's notarized, and then she's like, and then I had like funeral plans there. It's like, I want a keg of beer and no one's allowed to leave until it's gone.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's just like, is there anything you do that's not ridiculous? And I'm like, no.
I think though it is important to have those conversations. It's like my mum is obviously considerably older than both of us. She's 75. She's going to be older because obviously she's my mum. But yeah, she's actually organised her own funeral, and she knows exactly what music she's going to have, because my dad's funeral was kind of out of the blue, so we had to arrange it. But my mum's wants to take that hassle away from both me and my brother and her current partner, So I think it is good to talk about that kind of thing, really. Yeah, it is morbid, but at least you then find out what the person actually wants.
I agreed. I just went through it with my mom as well. My father died 20 years ago, and it was also pretty sudden.
Yeah.
And my father was only 69 years old when he died. And my mother next week turned 79, and she has gotten in her head that her time is almost up, and she needs to plan this out. So we go over to I have 3 sisters, 2 of which we don't talk to, and one of which who's could be construed as an idiot. But we go over to the funeral home to like plan this out, and my mom's going to pay for it and all that, because she had the same thing. She didn't want it to fall on me and my sister.
Yeah.
And I have a very good talent in compartmentalizing things. So like I have a business life. I own an interest in a home improvement company, which I work very hard at. And then I have my comedy life, and then my podcast life, and then my home life, right? And I'm able to compartmentalize that well to where one doesn't really spill into the other. If anything spills into anything, just the way I am stand-up wise will spill into podcasting a little bit,
Yeah.
because I I don't consider myself a podcaster. I consider myself a comic who has a podcast.
Yeah,
You know what
fair
I'm
enough. Yeah.
saying? You know, and I'll get to what I mean here in a second. But but when we were over there, I was just, you know, my mom, it was a big deal about like what casket she was going to have. And I was like, what does it matter? You know? And I was
Hmm.
like, you're not going to be looking at it. So why don't you let us pick? We're the ones going to be looking at it, you know?
Yeah.
And so she's like, yeah, that's a good point, you know? And my sister was like, how could you take this so, you know, business like that? And I was like, because you got to learn how to separate. It's like business 101 or people management 101. You know, you got to remove emotion from it,
Yeah.
you know, and, and over the years, I've gotten very good at that to where people will be like, dude, you're cold. And I'm like, I'm not cold. It's not that I don't love my mother. You know, it's just that in this, you know, in this scenario, you know, you have to be, you know, clear headed.
Yeah. You have to be practical.
Yeah. Make decisions that aren't going to cost you
Yeah.
30 grand, you know, because dying, mark my words, dying is not cheap,
No,
you
definitely
know,
not. They've
it's
got
not.
over here, I don't know if it's the case over in America, of course, because I obviously don't live there, but
Sure.
we've got a new thing sort of that's come out. Well, I say new, it's probably about 4 years old or so, but it's called pure cremation. So it's basically that the person just opts to have like the cremation and then the family can have like a party afterwards.
Hmm.
Well, not a party, but the wake. But I consider it a party because I celebrate in their life, not as a party. Ding dong, woo, they've gone, kind of thing. Ding dong,
Well,
Rick is dead.
there's some people that you're just like, oh my god, I thank God I don't have to deal with that person anymore. You
Well,
know,
yeah,
and I mean, there are some people. I'm not making light. People are out there, man. This dude's a jerk. Yeah, I'm not making light of anybody. I don't wish death on anybody,
no,
but you know, I mean, there are people in everybody's life that they wish that they didn't have to deal with anymore.
mm,
You know,
exactly.
and they're trying to figure a way, nice, how to get rid of them. And everybody wants to be polite, and everybody wants to be, you know, cordial, you
Yeah,
know, and all this. And in the back of their head, they're just like, I just hope that dude would get hit by a bus, you know, and and everybody has that. And if they don't, they're, you know what they're called? What are they called? What's the word? Oh, they're a liar.
yeah,
And you know, but everybody has that one person who's just like, dude, I just wish that dude would go away. You
yeah,
know, and you know what? And if you're out there and you're listening, and I'm that person for you, please tell me. I will gladly go away. I got too many people in my life to begin with, you know, so I will gladly go away. Now I'm gonna make fun of you while I do it, but
yeah,
but you know, please let me know. Watch, Beeps will like text me. It's like, you're you're that person for me,
yeah.
you know.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say anything because we're only 14 minutes in, so I'll wait until the hour's up.
A lot
No, I
could
love
change
you,
in an
Keb.
hour.
Yeah, no,
A
I think
lot could
you're
change
great.
in an hour. Yeah, thank you.
I think honesty is I think that's the strongest power that anybody can have. I mean, yeah, you do need to sometimes be a bit, not necessarily you, but in general, need to be a bit tactile, I suppose, with things.
Yeah.
Unless you're close with someone and they already get your sense of humor. But no, I pretty much say what it's like and then apologize later if I've hurt someone's feelings. Do you know what I mean?
We have a saying in this house that don't ask the question if you don't want the answer.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, the kids, you know, kids will be, you know, especially like, not so much now. My kids are older, and so I'm kind of laughing at, like, I have family members that are, you know, just having, you know, small children, and they're
Mm,
just like, you know, up all night with the crying babies, and I'm just like, dude, yeah, thank God that's not me anymore.
yeah.
But children can be brutal, honest wise,
Yes.
and I mean, they'll tell you if they don't like something about you, they'll tell you, you know,
No. But
and
it's
so we instituted that rule years ago with, look, if you don't want to know the answer, don't ask the question.
yeah.
And you know, it works for us. You know, we have like 4 rules in this house. It's such a lenient place. It wasn't always that way, but it was such a lenient. I mean, like, it's like be cordial to people, don't lock doors. If you don't want to know the answer, don't ask the question, and weak people cry. And my daughter and my wife don't like that one.
Yeah, funny enough, I don't agree with that one either. I think
Yeah, not many people do.
Yeah,
Not many people. That came from my dad, because my dad I could hear him saying it now. He was like, the only time that it's permissible to cry. My dad was born in 1934, so he talks like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, the only time that's permissible to cry is when somebody dies or you're hurt physically or emotionally, like that. And I'm like, he goes, any other time you're just looking for attention.
Well,
I'm like, okay, whatever.
There's part of me that agrees with that, because when we were chatting earlier, before I started recording, I did say that, like, I'm not an overly big crier sort of thing like this, and I'm not.
Right.
I did when I was a baby, I did a lot of crying because I wasn't very well. But it really takes a lot for me to actually burst into tears. I more get not angry in the aggressive sense, but angry like in the I just want to scratch someone's face off, kind of thing.
Right.
So I suppose that is aggressive, right. But I wouldn't actually do it, is what I'm saying. But yeah, I tend to laugh everything off rather than anything else. But I think also it is important to have emotions as well, though, because otherwise it's eliminating something, in my opinion. It's taking away something that actually I think it's really strong for somebody to actually cry, as long as it's about something serious. Do you know what I mean? Not like, I stubbed my toe and now I'm bursting into tears. It's like, yeah, go with that one. But so
it's funny you brought up emotions. The emotion I've been dealing with the majority of my life is anger. And I have what people have considered a hair trigger temper. Like, I can go from 0 to, my wife's like, you go from 0 to 100 like that. And I'm like, look, I idle at like 80, so, it's not like it's a far cry, but like over the years, it's gotten a little better. Certainly in the last 20, when I've been doing stand up, that I can, it's almost like, we were talking about Dexter earlier. It's almost kind of like I channel my anger into comedy,
that makes sense.
And I kind of channel it into there, and that gives me the release that my dark passenger has, because it wasn't always that way. And the guys make fun of me about driving around, because I'll be talking on the phone with my friends in the car, and they're just out of blue, I'll just start yelling at somebody, and for cutting me off, or making a stereotypical comment about the type of person that's driving, or name your stereotype. But that's something I've been dealing with, for a lot. And it doesn't happen so much anymore, because the way that I've taught myself to deal with things is through humor.
Yeah.
So like when bad things happen, and not a lot of people appreciate this, but when bad things happen, I tend to start making fun of it, and trying to lighten the mood, and like February of 2024, I spent a week in the hospital with sepsis. And the entire time, my mom, my sister, my wife, my daughter, they're like, "You're not taking this seriously." And my best friend was like, "You got to understand, that's who I've known since I was 10."
Yeah.
He's like, that's how he deals, with things. He starts making fun, because people like doctors would come in, and I'd be like, I don't know if you're ready for me, and anyhow, but by the time I left, I remember the head nurse came in. She's just like, I hope you're feeling better. And I say, I am. And she's like, I just want to tell you, you're the most entertaining patient we have ever had on this floor.
That's it, isn't it?
And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then my wife's like, and you know how many times she was like, I would say something, and the doctor would look at her, and she's like, don't look at me, I live with him, and it was just but that's how I've learned kind of how to channel anger, because I'll get it, I'll start seeing red and it's tunnel vision, and I can't look at things objectively, and with certain things, especially if it's anything to do, like if anybody's taking advantage of my family or anything like that.
Oh no, that's a no area, isn't it? Yeah.
There was an instance where there used to be a store here called Big Lots.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a mini Walmart kind of.
Okay.
Where I don't know. Do you guys have Walmart over there?
We don't have Walmart, but we have the sister company called Asda. So it's a kind of similar sort of thing, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just where you could go and get cheap stuff,
Yeah,
and
groceries and stuff like that. Yeah.
Kind of the modern day department store, kind of.
Yeah. I think actually it was probably more like the Range over here. We've got a shop called the Range, which has literally got pretty much everything you'd need to buy. So yeah.
Well, Walmart is the biggest one over here. It's just where you go. It's where I go to feel better about myself, because you go in there and you're absolutely the wealthiest person in there.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but this person at Big Lots, my wife came home. She's upset, and I'm like, what happened? And she's like, this person at Big Lots just laid into me like that. And I'm like, what? And laid into me. And so I said, what was their name? She told me the name. I grabbed my keys. She's like, where are you going? I said, Big Lots. And I went up there. I don't even remember the drive. That's how mad I was. I'm like, you do not talk to, and we had a problem with this guy before, but I was there, and so if he wouldn't talk to me that way and spoke to my wife that way, it's because she's a woman and I am against that.
Yep.
And I almost had to be removed from the store. I almost did, but like that's a good example of where I just don't even think, move. And it's kind of, it's scary, but it doesn't happen very often anymore. When I was in my 20s and 30s, it happened all the time.
Yeah, I think it's also like adrenaline as well, isn't it? Sort of thing. But how did you then realize to turn it into comedy then, and to do your stand up?
So I'd been doing stand up for probably like 5 or 6 years, here and there. I started doing stand up a little bit before I started having children. So, when you have kids, I mean, you can't go out every night,
No.
So, but I'd probably been doing it like 5 or 6 years, and I was writing things that weren't like me, and so we have this group of comedians who like get together and like do writing, and we just bounce off. And I mean, if you could record those conversations, you wouldn't be able to put them on, because comedy, really, stand up is really the last bastion of free speech we have.
Well, until you're cancelled, so to speak, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. But I mean, and nothing is off limits, and it's kind of like Daniel Tosh says, that if you're one of those people out there that think there's not something funny about everything, me and you can't be friends, because there's something funny about everything. Everything. I don't care what it is. Cancer, whatever. There's something funny about it. Anyhow, so I was writing things it wasn't really me. It was like what I thought that the audience wanted to hear.
Right.
And
okay.
so about 5, 6, and in my professional life, I'm in sales, and there's a sales and marketing, and there's a like kind of sales 101. They teach you that if you don't believe in your product, you're never going to be able to sell it.
Yep.
No, and I didn't really, I didn't really believe in my jokes, so I just flipped it, and I started writing about me, because people, they anybody could go and hear a comic talk about Trump or talk about politics or whatever, but the only way that you're going to get funny things about my life is if you come and see me.
Fair enough.
I
Yeah.
mean, no other, so I started doing that, and at the time I had small children, so that was funny.
Is that fun material as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to remember,
Yeah.
and as you get older, your humor changes because you have more life experience.
Mm.
And when you hear about these, like Eddie Murphy started when he was 17. I mean, what life experience do you really have at 17? But as you get older, and when I turned 40, it was just like, now I'm looking behind my shoulder for the Grim Reaper, and those people who say, 40 is the new 30. Can you tell my back that,
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
and stuff like that. And it gets, writing wise, it gets easier, because you have so much to choose from.
Yes.
As you get older, you have so much to choose from, and things that are funny. Like I just wrote a bit. I haven't tried it out yet, but I just wrote a bit this week about living with somebody who's premenopause.
Okay.
And what's funny at that? My wife will sit there and she'll yell at the thermostat, and then I'm apologizing to the dog. Just things like that.
Yeah.
Everything's my fault. And we're supposed to just take this on the chin. I mean, but my audience is, Gen X.
Hmm.
So I kind of, it's easy if you write about yourself, because no one could tell that story. No one can tell the story of, how I went to religious school till I was 13 and how it's affected me. Now, my friends know exactly how it's affected me, because I'm, um, my personal thoughts on the religious community. And I'm not just signaling, one thing, or not all of them.
Yeah.
And I don't think religion's a bad thing. I just think that, it took me until I was 19 years old to figure out that guy up there is telling me that go to hell is just a dude. I mean, it's just a dude with a different degree than me.
Yeah, and in my opinion, I'm sort of going to echo something that because I don't know if you've seen the film Dogma or not, but Kevin Smith,
I have seen that movie about 50 times. It
good.
is
So
probably one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
yeah, I love that film too, and it's like there's a quote in there that Kevin Smith wrote, or he may have said it separately, but it was the fact that what religion don't realize is that all of the religions are exactly the same practically. I'm not saying it
Yeah.
fully correct, the quote I mean, but that's what I really do think. I'm not not religious, but I also don't disbelieve anything. Do you know what I mean? I believe stuff, but I also don't believe stuff. So it's kind of, I'm I'll wait until I'm dead. I'll find out what it's
Yeah.
all about.
I'm not saying that believing in something isn't a good thing. It is,
Mm,
and I'm not saying that I don't believe in a higher power. What I'm saying is it's nobody's damn business what I believe,
no, 100%.
and there are three religious quotes. That's one of them, from Dogma, where they're all about the same. There's two
Yeah.
others that I really like. One of them comes from the Big Bang Theory, and Amy Farrah Fowler, played by Mayim Balak, she says that I'm not against the idea of a deity. I'm just a little confused of one that requires attendance.
Hmm.
That's one of my favorite quotes, but probably my favorite, true religious quote comes from the 1989 movie Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze,
Okay.
and he's trying to rent, a cheap house, and the guy he's renting from says, it's not the money, but I have to charge you some sort of rent, or the Presbyterians around here will liken for my ruination. And he goes, how's $100 sound? And Patrick Swayze goes, if it keeps you in the good graces of the church. And the guy goes, "Isn't it peculiar how money does that very thing?"
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
and you see all these mega church people flying around in private planes and all this. And I think somewhere in the fold, it got lost of what, that aspect is supposed to do. I mean, when we started putting churches on TVs, that's fine. It can bring, the word of God to the masses. But, when a hurricane hits, it'd be nice if you had a mega church in Houston, Texas, and you'd open the doors for them. That would be the quote unquote Christian thing to do.
Yeah. For all people as well, for all religions.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
people who don't do that, or don't try to help out your fellow man or follow what we call the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
Um, they are victims of my comedy. So
Yeah.
so they're gonna probably be heard of, because I'm the worst person in the world to argue religion with, because I'm what they call a knowledgeable idiot. And because all of your pick your religion, all of the dogma that goes along with that religion, I think is a freaking farce. However, I went to religious school where we had to study the Bible, where we had to go to chapel every morning, where we had to wear uniforms so everybody looked like the same. It's kind of like the Matrix.
Mm.
And so it's very difficult. Like, if you want to argue, scripture with me, I'm not an expert, but I know what I'm talking about. It's just so I call myself a knowledgeable idiot. When it comes to that. And also, I've been married twice, so I know how to argue pretty good. So I'll just keep talking until you give up, basically.
Right, I'm hanging up
you know
now. But
yeah, yeah.
going back to what you said about the sort of anger and things like that. That's why
Mhm.
I'm not necessarily an angry person as my lovely co-host would actually make out me to be. I do put on a bit of a persona when it comes to the podcast. So like I'm Gem Hulk. Um but also
Right.
equally, some days I really am, because I do get pissed off by things. Like, for example, the other day, I'm not sure if you call them indicators. When somebody's turning left and they put it on in their car, is that an
Yeah,
indicator?
we call it a blinker,
A
or a
blinker.
turning signal, or a
Okay.
turning signal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say indicator though, because that's what I say. But
Yeah.
obviously, any lovely American is please change it to a blinker or what whatever
I
you just.
mean, the technical term that we use is turning signal, but
Oh,
the
turning
the
signal.
slang term is blinker. And I'll tell you what's funny is when somebody doesn't use it, like a common saying over here is they must be out of blinker fluid,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
there is no such thing as blinker fluid,
Yeah.
and then somebody like me will be like, it's probably, insert stereotype here, driving.
Yes.
And I don't want to I give certain people a lot of crap on Unfiltered Sports Weekly, so I don't want to do that here.
No, fair
If
enough.
you want to hear what I truly think, go to a podcast where there is absolutely no holds barred.
Yeah.
Um,
But no,
but
going back to just quickly
yeah,
going
sorry.
back to no, that's all right. It's just that this happened the other day, and that's why. Firstly, this is why I brought in the "What a Load of Codswallop" section of this podcast, so that we could air
Mhm.
anything that really pisses us off, even if it's just down to like I did with Mama D, who's also another podcast on the Unfiltered Studio Network, and she and I were talking about lip balm and why you can't get the bottom of the lip balm out, because it's always there, isn't it? You can't use it, and it's so annoying. Anyway, but that's also a very, very first world problem. So most of mine are, but this one was was the fact was the fact that this person in their car, or twat in their car, is twat, but I can't say twat
Great
because
word.
there
You
is.
guys have the best curse words
I know.
ever. I mean, I
Wanker.
watched
There
this
you go.
show called I watched a show called Mobland,
Yep.
and it's set in London.
Yeah.
and Pierce Brosnan, Tom Hardy, and dude, like, and anytime, have you ever seen the movie Snatch?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Um, Dude, I mean, you guys have the best curse words,
I know.
I mean, The
I don't like.
Gentleman, great movie,
Yeah, I don't like the
you
C
know.
word. I don't like the CUNT word. But
Mhm.
yeah, that one kind of feels a bit too aggressive for me. So I don't like that one, but most of them. Anyway, so this person was driving in their car and they had their indicator on and they were like saying they were turning left. And then the whole way down the road that was turning left. And I'm literally there in my car going, do you fucking turn that thing off or turn left? It's like, oh my God. And it's like slowly rising. I'm
Mhm.
getting to the point where, like you said, I'm going to see red in a minute. And then they went round a roundabout, and I thought, oh well, they're going to turn left now. No, they just carried straight on, and so I just needed to get that out of my system. It really pissed me
Yeah.
off. And luckily, I was actually turning left at that point, so it was somebody else's problem. But I was just like, why can't you turn it off? It's like it's going ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong in the car. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I
Yeah.
use my anger as comedy in some ways as well.
Most of mine now, yeah, it's funny you brought up drive. Most of mine is in the car. I drive a lot,
Yeah.
and when I say a lot, I drive about 1,000 miles a week,
Mm.
and for work, for whether or not I'm going down the road, for gigs or whatever. I drive a lot,
Yeah.
and so here in Jacksonville, we have a big ass river that goes through the middle of town, and at certain points, it's half a mile to get across it. At certain points, it's 3.5 miles to get across it.
Mm.
And I know I'm talking to Europe here. I don't know what that
So,
is in kilometers.
nor do I, so it's
So
fine.
it's a ways. Anyhow, but you'll get these people who are stopped at green lights, and I just feel that it's my duty as a member of
Okay.
functional member of society to tell them that the fucking light is green.
Yes.
And then they tell me, they roll down their window, they tell me something else, and now we're in this room over here,
Yeah.
and but I've never gotten in a like a road rage incident because I think I just don't care about them that much,
Mm.
but I do love what I call road karma is, and I'll give you an example. Not too long ago, I was going across one of these bridges, and it's called the Buckman Bridge. It's 3.5 miles long, and so you're on it for a second, and this dude just below. I mean, it has 4 lanes, and I'm in the not the far left lane, but the right lane. And yes, I'm talking about American driving, so we drive on the right side of the road.
Yeah.
And so I'm not anyhow. This guy just blows. I'm doing like 80 miles an hour. Again, don't know what that is kilometers.
We go by miles per hour anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going like 80, and this dude just blows by me going easy 100, 110. And then I see another car in my rearview mirror coming up, and it's an unmarked cop car with his lights going, I'm just like, and I had a person in the car with me, and they're like, you shouldn't laugh at that because then that's going to happen to you. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not a dumbass like that guy, and it just, I love the instant karma. We have a problem here with Jacksonville is the largest area landmass city in the continental United States. So
Okay.
that translates into it takes forever to get anywhere. And you could like drive, say, hey, I'm going across town, and I mean it's an hour and a half drive, and you're still in Jacksonville. I know no other city that in America that's like that. Now, traffic wise, like Atlanta, New York, Dallas, these cities, LA, these cities that have horrible traffic, which Jacksonville's getting there, because we don't have the population that those places do. Atlanta, I mean, New York's 8 million or 10 million people now, 11 million people now. Atlanta's like 8 million people. I mean, we're just, approaching 2 million people, you know?
Which is a lot,
Um,
obviously. It's still a lot of people, isn't it?
yeah,
But yeah, it's obviously in
there's,
comparison, it isn't. So,
there's too many people, man. We didn't do COVID right. We should have let it take out like a lot more people, but, I'm just kidding.
he's not.
But, yeah, I mean, there's too many people there's these guys that go to McDonald's and they sit there and they look at the menu like they don't know what they're getting. Who doesn't know what they get at McDonald's?
No, exactly. And who doesn't use the app? Let's face it,
Right?
there's an app for it now. Everyone's got an app for everything nowadays, haven't they?
I mean, the person, I don't know if we have a sandwich shop here called Subway.
Yeah, we got that.
And okay, and so it's just a guy that's sitting there trying to decide what he wants. He's looking at the menu. It's like everybody knows that you go to Subway knowing what you're going to get.
Yeah,
it's not like you're not Jared from Subway and eat there every day.
No, well, let's not bring him up, eh?
Everybody gets really when I start bringing up people like that who have fallen from grace.
Yeah,
they get real real timid. I brought up OJ the other day. I was guesting on a podcast. I brought up OJ, and they're like, "Ooh," like that, and I was like, "What, man?" Anyhow, but yeah, I mean, there's too many in the way people. And they gave us COVID, and they were trying to right the ship, but then we had to stay inside for X amount of time.
I know, and too many good people, as in good people that get on with their lives, died. It left all the shitty people that take time.
What irritates me is with COVID was the COVID deniers. That somebody that we knew, because over here, like, the first wave went through and like you would know like nobody that had it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the second wave went through and like everybody got it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know some people who were on ventilators. I know a couple people who died.
Aww.
But I also had a couple people who I know in my life who probably will listen to this, and they were like, well, he didn't die of COVID. He died because he couldn't breathe anymore. And so I'm not saying he's dying of COVID. I'm saying that, and I'm like, well, yeah, but that was the cause. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you shoot somebody, he didn't die because you shot him. He died because he bled out, or, the bullet hit the organs. It wasn't, you shooting him that killed him. It was the bullet.
Yeah.
That's the same. There's a movie called Collateral, where Tom Cruise shoots somebody and he falls out a window and he falls like four stories, and Jamie Foxx goes, "Man, you killed that guy." He's like, "No, I shot that guy. The bullet in the fall killed him." And that's kind of the same thing. COVID was the reason why the guy was sick, and then whatever sickness they wanted to call it. I
do think over in this country, especially, I do think, and this is just my personal opinion, but I think that there were a few things. It was almost like to add to the numbers of how many people were dying. I think there were a few illnesses, or like somebody had a heart attack, but it was COVID. Do you know what I mean? There was a lot of things over in this country, for example, that they did mark things down as there's been this many deaths since COVID, and they were wording it very well, like this many deaths since COVID, and it sort of gives you like, 15,000 or whatever, and it's like, oh my God, that sounds horrendous. Everyone wants to stay indoors and be safe and all that, which kind of suited me because I don't like people anyway. But but at the same time, it was a lot of people that it was, in some cases the elderly, because it was the winter, and unfortunately in the winter the elderly do pass away a lot more frequently than they do in like the summer type months and things like that. Is like little patterns, but those deaths were also being calculated into it as well. So yeah, I do obviously agree with what you're saying as well, but in the whole stats thing, so I do a lot of air quotes, but the stats thing is that they were sort of, they weren't giving us the true figures, I don't think, But anyway, I don't want to talk about politics because I could carry on forever and I get my podcast cancelled. So,
Right. Yeah. I try to stay away from it. A lot of people
yeah,
ask me, do you have political opinions? Absolutely.
yeah,
I think both sides are stupid.
yes,
But I stay away from it because, like, if you talk about it, you got to kind of like pick a side, and
exactly.
I don't want to pick a side. I want to make fun of both of them,
Yeah,
and so there's just this gray area, and then people get into, hey, what do you think about? Yeah, I don't really care that much. I care more about like local stuff than I do
yeah,
about national or world geopolitical, things. I could really, I just don't pay attention to it.
okay.
I don't watch the news because I don't want to give them the opportunity to lie to me today. Um, so I mean, it's just, yeah. I get that's probably. I was on a podcast not too long ago that they flat out asked me why I don't talk about politics,
Hmm.
and I said because I don't want to make you feel dumb, and they're just like, why don't because I don't want to pick a side. It's nobody's business,
Yeah,
who I vote for.
it's going back to the religion conversation again, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just nobody's business. I think with religion, it's in politics, it's a very personal thing.
Mm,
I mean, no one should be out there questioning your belief structure,
no.
and trying to trying to download their dirty thoughts into your head. I mean, no, everybody's made up their mind. No one's
Hmm.
going to change anybody's mind. These people who watch debates, they're like, I'm undecided. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, no, social media has brought it to, an nth degree. The one thing I liked about the 80s and 90s is that no one had a phone. And
Yeah.
so you couldn't find anybody.
And you had to rely on newspapers and things like that, didn't you? And sit down at 5 and actually watch the news or whatever,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
want
And
to.
what the government wanted you to know. And they're like, oh, it's all government propaganda now. Well, it's always been that way.
Exactly.
Just now everybody can put their damn opinion online, like people care. And if you want something to, to lighten the mood, listen to Talking Codswallop or listen to
Yeah.
Stupid History, or
Yeah.
or a bunch of different things.
Exactly. And do you know what? That's a perfect segue because I was going to say, let's lighten the mood now and let's talk about
Sure.
how the Unfiltered Studio Network actually became a thing. And also about your podcast as well, because people listening to this know about my podcast. But if you don't know about it,
Sure.
well, you'll find out about it in the end.
I'll start with Unfiltered Studios.
Yeah.
So way back when, okay, so I started podcasting in like 2018,
Mm.
right? And as a way, and then really got into it during the pandemic because I couldn't get on a stage anywhere.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And I had a show, and it was called Keb Unfiltered. And if you try to go and listen to those episodes, you can't find them because I took them off. And it was
Okay.
basically me like screaming at the rain. I mean, like one of the episodes was called like 50 Things That Piss Me Off, and just stuff like that, and it just really, really was like, I didn't know what I was doing. There was no like niche, but like, I'd get per episode, I get, 80 to 100 downloads per episode. And so, somebody was listening to it. And so anyhow, I was talking, and I met Beebs, here locally, he lives here. And I met him, and we would have him and Scott, who goes by the moniker St. Joe sometimes. We would basically sit, we all worked at the same place at the time.
Oh, okay.
And we would sit like in a parking lot and just have these like great conversations. And I was just like, you know what? We should record these. And then Scott was like, I've never, done podcasting. So, but Beebs was on like a soccer podcast. So he kind of knew, you got to have a good microphone and all this good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so knew about production and knew, about that, which I really lacked, because I know how to, put an intro on and an outro on something and then put what I'm saying in the middle. Is about it. And so I asked Beebs, I said, hey, would you like to start, come on this podcast with me and we just talk about whatever. And he's like, yeah. So we started the podcast called the Unfiltered Podcast. And then it kind of morphed into, we got St. Joe to come in, 3 or 4 episodes in. And the dynamic between the three of us was just like that parking lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, we talk about, our audience was predominantly male, in between 35 and 65. I mean, you know how to get the demographics. Our distributor that we use, gives us, we pay like a level up to get these different demographics. And anyhow, so it was also at the birth of Good Pods. And
okay.
and I have my opinion of Good Pods. I don't think, I don't go goo over Good Pods like
No,
a
I
lot of
don't either.
people, but I think it is a good thing for exposure. And I'm a big guy on exposure, because if you want people to listen to you, if you want to build a real audience, and I'll get to what that means here in a second. And that was the basis for Unfiltered Studios. Anyhow, about a year into it, I guess, Beebs was like, hey, I want to start. We were kind of like, with this thing, we were kind of like, what is it and what are we doing here? And Beebs kind of gave me the idea. He wanted to start a podcast that his kids could listen to. And I'm like, hey, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did the same thing with Stupid History Minute. And, that anybody could listen to. But what he was doing was making a serious podcast. What I was doing was mocking history podcasts. It was a joke. I listened to all these history podcasts. They're all 2 hours long. They're beating things to death. Like, there's only so many times we could talk about the JFK assassination, and they all think they're like Walter Cronkite, and they all say their name, I'm Walter Cronkite, and I mean, they're all like that. So I was sitting in a chair one day here, and I told the soon to be world famous wife, was like, hey, I got this idea. Let me run it by you. Do you think this is funny? And I said, I want to create a podcast that is roughly a minute long. And she's like, okay, what are you going to talk about? And I'm like, history. And I love history. I went to school for it. I read the almanac. I'm the guy to have at team trivia things at the bar. And so, and she literally out of her mouth goes, that's stupid, like that. And I said, that's what we're going to call it.
Yeah.
And I said, and she goes, well, what are you going to talk about? On my kitchen table was, she had just bought a Ninja blender. And I said, the first episode is going to be the history of the blender. And it just went from there.
Yeah.
I would walk around the house with a pad and just like toaster, thumbtack, toothpick, and just write down all these items that we were going to research the history of. And at the time, my daughter was in middle school, and I said, you can help. You guys just became my staff, and anyhow, we went from there. I did 30 episodes. I recorded them in the car, with a lapel microphone, because I didn't want anybody to hear me, because, my wife's just like, this is dumb, and so I was like, all right, I'll record them in the car. And I did 30, and then I was just going to be done with it. That was the joke, what I'm saying? And that was the joke. Well, about a week went by after the 30th episode, and I started getting DMs. I didn't even have like a Stupid History Minute Twitter.
Yeah.
It was to Keb Lives, and I started getting DMs because at the end, if you listen to the early episodes, at the end, instead of it saying now it says this is a production of Unfiltered Studios, but at the end it was just like, hey, follow me on Twitter at Keb Lives,
Yeah.
and and people would DM me, hey dude, why'd you stop? And I'm not talking like 5 or 10 people. I'm talking a lot of people.
Yeah.
And hey, why'd you stop? And it was like, dude, we thought that was fun, And so I was like, all right. So I did another 50, and then I started getting into stuff that I was interested in learning about,
Yeah.
And then it was my best friend was like, you should put this into a book and give longer explanations. And I was like, yeah, but that's only funny if like you make the book sound like a history book, it can't be like how I write. It's got to be like, you got. And he's like, well, it's funny you should say that. Aren't you the son, the brother, and the husband of teachers? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, get them to help. So we spent a
Yeah.
lot of time making that book sound like a history book.
I didn't actually know you had a book, so oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's called The Stupid History Book. It's
Ah,
available on Amazon.
wow. Guess what I'll be doing in a minute.
It's actually I don't know if you can see the microphone, but those yellow books above me.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Oh well, then you can post me one. There you go, sorted.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what that is internationally, but
A lot of money. So I was only joking. Yeah, don't worry.
No. It's available Kindle too. But yeah, and you know what? Volume 2 is in the works. I get asked about that a lot, and Volume 2 is in the works. It's just I don't think Volume 1 is done. Like I don't think enough people have bought it to constitute. And it's been out in October. That'll be 2 years.
Oh wow.
So,
That's good though.
but then again, I don't really advertise it anymore, either. But every Father's Day here in the U.S., which is in June, I mean, it's a good thing. We marketed it originally as a book that you should put on the back of your toilet.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's how it was marketed. It cost minimal to produce, but there are 3 Easter eggs in it that you will only get if you listen to the podcast. That's on purpose, and most people have read it that have gotten 2 of them, but no one's gotten the third. I have a $500 Visa gift card for whoever can tell me all 3.
Ooh.
But yeah, no one's gotten all 3. Most of them gotten 2. But there's a third one in there that's also in like the first 5 pages of the book that no one will get. It's hidden. That no one's gotten. I couldn't believe that they didn't get it. But it's fun. But anyhow, through all that, Beebs called me one day, and so you've got to backtrack. He started Finding Your Way. You got me starting the Stupid History Minute. And you got Scott, who started a show called Nailed It.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, we were kind of done with Unfiltered, the show, the podcast, right? Because Beebs is a teacher. It got kind of too much for him, and so we kind of took a break. Me and Beebs did kind of an iteration of it. We called it Refiltered. And then that just transformed. We talked about sports anyway all the time, so it just transformed into Unfiltered Sports Weekly, and brought St. Joe back in the fold. But through all that, Beebs and I had a conversation, and he's like, hey, Finding Your Way can be, a product of what we could call Unfiltered Studios. And I'm like, what is that? And he was like, well, we could sit here and do the podcast runaround where we retweet and all that. And he's like, that's all fine and dandy, but what about trying to garner real audiences and garner try to build real audiences and things like that. And he's convinced, and I'm convinced, and anybody who would ask me, this is what I would say, is that to build a real audience you need to get yourself out there and not just not just retweet other podcasters' stuff. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like the other, I'm not going to name names, but the other side outside of Unfiltered Studios, I mean, you're in them, I'm in them, you know, and it's good for exposure, but that's kind of like a comedy open mic. A
Yeah.
comedy open mic, you're just telling jokes to other comics. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really care. I mean, I appreciate people like retweeting my stuff, and because I don't put it out there for my health, but it's
Hmm.
all about exposure. It's all about exposure. Where you build the real audience is hearing people, you know, like doing things like this, you know, and collaboration, you know, with people. And I'm not just talking inside the network, which I would love for it to be more than that. But you know, the thing that we wanted the network to be originally was just like-minded people who just wanted to help other people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whatever that looks like, maybe it's a retweet, maybe it's a share, maybe it's going on, you know, somebody's podcast. I'll take Cindy at Hypno Wellness, for example. She was the first person outside of the original four that came into the network. When I say the original four, it's me, nailed it with St. Joe, finding your way with Beebs, and Pedals of Sport.
Yeah. With Mama
Um,
D, who's
and
previously been on the
right,
episode as well. Yeah. Um, podcast, even not episode.
right, and so that was the original four. Cindy came in, and then Sleevey came in, you know, almost right after. It was a six for the forever, you know.
Mm.
And then I guess this word got around. I mean, we didn't do any advertising, you know. I mean, it was just the six of us forever, and we didn't understand, I guess, at the time that we have a unique community
Yes.
that's different. You know, we're not going to put you know, nothing to say bad about, you know, what other groups do, but you know, we're more of a community where people can ask questions and help people, you know. And I think in that, I mean, you have some people who are very active like yourself,
Hmm.
um so Wizard Podcasts, you know, Mama D, Cindy, who I don't think anybody's more active than Cindy.
Oh my goodness, no. I've made a joke before, haven't I? That she actually retweets your stuff before you even posted it.
I think sometimes she's just sitting there watching her phone,
Yeah.
you know, and because she's always, you two are always the first two to like comment on the stupid question of the day, stupid history question of the day.
Yeah. But that's personally that's what I've started doing, because actually I'm not part of any other a group anymore. Oh, one separate group, but
Mm-hmm.
mostly it's the Unfiltered group, because I was just getting a bit overwhelmed, and I started
Yeah.
realizing that I was retweeting all of this stuff, and the
Mm-hmm.
majority of people weren't doing that back. And I don't mean in our group, but in other groups.
Sure.
And you feel like you're clogging up your feed. So what I've started doing instead is, as you probably noticed, is actually putting comments underneath it.
Yeah.
So it's like the
Mm-hmm.
comments in the chatter or whatever will draw attention to what you're advertising as well. But then the main thing that I'm trying to promote is pinned to my page, you know?
Yeah, I somebody asked me the other day, not from our group, but from another group, because they were really interested in why I wasn't irritated with Good Pods, and that how they claim to help the indie podcast community, but they really don't.
No.
And since I'm on the front page of that, you know, doesn't that irritate me? And I'm like, no. And they asked me what would be the best way for somebody to support your podcast, and I said it's really easy. Listen to an episode. That's
Mm.
it. You know what I'm
Or,
saying? I
or,
don't want your money. You know, I
yeah,
mean, listen to an episode, you know, or leave me a review. You
yeah,
know, so more people can get out there. You can't argue with me about the time that it takes to listen to my episode. You can't argue
no,
that. It'll be over by the time you pull out of the driveway.
yeah,
You know, I
exactly.
mean, you know, so you could listen to in a 20-minute drive, you can listen to, you know, 15 episodes, you know, if that's what you want. So that argument's gone. What I mean, if that's not your cup of tea, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
No.
And
But that's also another thing that I've said as well in the past is that if you could just, even if, with every podcast, not with every podcast ever, don't get me wrong, but every podcast that you kind of are supporting and things like that, if you can sit down and listen to at least 5 minutes of that podcast, obviously in your case it's a minute, so that's how long, maybe two, but it's, if you can listen to at least 5 minutes, then that helps to get that person more downloads. And then if they decide that they did want to go for a monetary side of things, then we could look into like sponsors if you've got like a certain amount. But at the same time, it helps raise your podcast up from being 1 billion 2000 and whatever to, okay, so this
right.
is up a little bit higher, so I might check this out, kind of thing. But yeah.
With last thought on the network, one of the thoughts when we started getting what I would consider, I don't think we're huge, but I'm friendly with the people over at the Darkcast Network. And I don't want to say we modeled it after them, but they have a similar model to us to where they talk to everybody that they bring in. They have a little bit more rules than we do. I'm not a big rules guy because no one's really making, if they're making money, they're not making a whole heck of a lot of money. Everybody's got a job. So I'm not a big guy on rules, but I do think it's special that if you're part of what I consider an exclusive group, that we have a way to show that you're part of that exclusive group to everybody, and I love, I get the tag that I'm in charge a lot of time. It's really a collaborative effort between the leadership team, which is me, Scott Beeps, and Mama D. If just like you, we talk to you. I mean, we talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And some people who will email us, if you go to the website, unitfpod.com, there's basically like a sheet to fill out, and we get probably 2 or 3 of those a week, some weeks we get none, but some weeks we get like 10, and it's not for everybody, but, and some people come in and some people left, but I think, just in other groups that I'm in, you don't get the conversation that you get in our network with other groups, what I'm saying, who I'm also I mean, I don't want to call member, but I mean, they've put me in their group on Twitter.
Yeah.
So you don't get that type of conversation. Is it what we want it to be? No. What we wanted it to be was, we wanted to help people get advertising and stuff like that. And we actually had a guy in the hook that was helping us with that, but the participation level for the advertisers wasn't where it needed to be.
No. I think also when it's a newer thing, it does need to have a few more legs, doesn't it, too, before you can grow.
And so we kind of said, okay, well, let's just see how this evolves organically, and then let's just see, how it goes organically. I'll back off because I was really aggressive, when we first year, especially second year, I wanted, I was sending out like emails about, whatever, about once a week, and I could tell who was reading them and who wasn't, and so, so we just said, let's just back off a little bit and see how this thing, evolves organically. And I kind of like it to where it is now because there's no real, real pressure. I mean, we got some people in there that just, you only hear from about once a month, but that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll look at it and we've already started looking at it to, evaluate the membership, and sometimes less is more, but I mean, we'll look at it that, but I mean, what does it hurt, and let's just, take maybe the rest of 2025 just to see how it evolves,
Exactly.
organically. But I do think we're helping people, and I do think it's a unique group versus the other ones.
Yeah, and it does feel like a friendly family group as well. So if any sort of podcasters are actually listening to this and you're not part of the Unfiltered Studios Network, then yeah, you can either send me a message on social media at Codswallop Pod. I'm on all of it, or or directly to Keb, or because I found out about it through listening to your podcast, so the Stupid History Minute podcast, and then because obviously you've got your tag along, which we've got at the end of our episodes as well, which obviously tells you all of the information on where you can find out how to sort of become a member. And like you said,
Sure.
I sat down and did the podcast, did the interview with you guys, very similar to what we're doing now, but there was 2 other members, and I must have charmed the shit out of you because here I am now.
And a lot of times it's just that we want to put a face with a voice.
Yeah.
We think. I mean, nobody else does that.
No.
So
it was nice. It was quite refreshing actually, because again, like you said, I get to I now, well, obviously I knew what you looked like straight away. There's other people on the podcast that on the network, sorry, that I don't know who they look like, and but it doesn't matter. You hear their voices because I listen to everybody's podcast on the. I've made it a mission that for my own personal self that I want to listen and support indie podcasts. So everybody that's in the network, I've literally downloaded their episodes. There are a few others as well. And I have got a couple of big ones as well, but because they've always been there in my, I can't get rid of them sort of thing,
Sure.
But I do. I sit there and listen. If the content isn't quite what I'm after, then I might skip it a little bit, but you have got pretty much my full attention, and I am listening and supporting everybody. So yeah.
It takes me like I listen and I exclusively listen to podcasts in the car. Like if I'm in the house, it's what's on the TV, or and I'm a huge sports fan, so I mean, if the Braves or the Jaguars or the Gators that are on, that's got my full attention. And baseball is 162 games through the summer, so you know what I'm doing every night. So sometimes, like when it comes to like a podcast, like it'll take me like days to listen to like one episode, because I'll drive 30 minutes, get out of the car, and then when I get back in the car, it's on. So sometimes it'll take me, but every afternoon I have about an hour drive, so that's when I put like you on, like I'll listen to the one that you had come out today. I'll listen to it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And when Mama D starts back up, hers are different. Hers are like 20 minutes long. Yeah, so you can get those in a but I like a lot of people ask me like what type of podcast do I like. The conversational podcasts are probably what I listen to the most. And then I'm a big TV and movie guy, so I like to hear opinions. So if they're talking about like a movie I love, but if they're talking like a movie I haven't seen, I'm probably not going to listen to it. I don't go to the movies a lot. It's got to be a very large movie. Like I haven't seen Superman, I haven't seen Fantastic Four, or anything like that. I'll probably wait till they come on digital to see them. But the conversational, traditional hour and a half ones, those are the ones I typically, have on. And then I have a couple of, my favorite comedian, I listen to him. And then, a couple of national ones that I think are funny, big ones. But I try to support all indie podcasts, not just, the network first, but there are a bunch of good podcasts out there that aren't necessarily in our network. Not that we haven't tried to get them to join, because like there's been a couple that we've gone after, like we want that person in here. Like Florida Feeling is one of them, because she's local.
Yeah. Well, she's part of it now anyway, isn't she? So
yeah.
which is good. But
Yeah.
I know that when I first found out about you guys and I heard the word network, I'm just going to say this as it's going to sound negative, but it's not negative because it turned out great. But
Sure.
because I think I actually did tell you at the time when we were chatting as well, but when I first started out on a podcast, I was part of a network, which I won't name the podcast. I won't name the network, even though it doesn't exist anymore. But I had a truly awful experience with them, and that I felt like I was
Mm-hmm.
being bullied and not treated very well at all. So
Yeah.
I was really, really quite hesitant actually jumping back into a network as such. But I can,
Mm-hmm.
so for anybody who has got that sort of feeling, you know, I'd say that you definitely join this one because it's like a lovely bunch of people. And like I said, they're more like family and so supportive as well. So yeah, so I can say from this experience that I started out nervous and I'm happy to be on board. So that's good.
Well, we're happy to have you.
Oh, well, thank
And
you.
I mean, for people that are wondering out there, there's a couple of things that Unfiltered Studios Podcast Network will never do, and one of them is ask for your RSS feed. We've
Yes.
never asked one person for that. A lot of networks out there will,
Yeah.
because they want to monitor your downloads, and we just don't care.
No.
Number two is we're not going to ask for any money. We have many shows that have advertising on them. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's you guys. You know, we're literally here for support. Period.
Yeah.
You know, and to have like-minded individuals. We got a couple of quirks that we require. It works for us. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
like it, maybe it's not for you. But it's it's just a different thing. It's a unique community.
Yeah, 100%. Well,
Yeah.
I think that is a perfect way to end this episode, Keb. What do you think?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, Keb could talk for hours
Yeah.
more. Gemma's beginning to need the toilet and need a wee. So
Yeah.
I am doing a wiggle in my chair. And it's not uncommon that I
Yeah.
announce this on the podcast. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
I like
awesome.
to talk about toilet.
I need to get some breakfast.
Oh, good point. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, what
Yeah.
is your social media so that people can go follow you? And obviously, I'll put it in the description as well. So
Yeah. Easiest way to get me. I mean, Stupid History Minutes at Stupid Minute on Twitter. You can find. I've got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. TikTok's kind of getting up there. So I'm trying to. And I'll tell you offline my idea, but
okay.
and which will happen this afternoon. But TikTok is getting up there, is getting a lot more active, and which is really funny because I put a picture and a song on there, and I don't really put my face on there unless I have something incredibly dumb to say. But yeah. Threads, Blue Sky, all that good stuff. But I'm also, if you want to hit me, I'm at Keb Lives, KEBLIVES. That's my personal. I get a lot of I think it's funny that people who can't put two and two together, that the same guys on the Stupid History Minute as Keb Lives. Even though in the bio it says hosted by Keb Lives. Yeah, I just think it's funny that people who can't put that together.
Yeah.
So like I got a DM like 2 weeks ago to Keb Lives, like, hey, are you affiliated with Stupid History Minute? I'm like, nah, I fucking hate that show. And and they're like, oh, okay, well they're using your yeah, it's me. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like the people who text you, the spam texts. I mess with them. But yeah, those are the social media.
Yeah. I do like to mess with them as well sometimes. And sometimes I'm not in the mood, so I don't bother. But, if I'm really in the mood, I will.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I think that we've been talking enough Codswallop this week. I have been Gemma.
I'm Keb.
Thank you ever so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.